Oxalis Triangularis, or purple shamrock, one of the most stunning houseplants that I've ever had the pleasure of growing. It's got a little bit of everything: fantastic, colourful and interesting shaped foliage, beautiful little flowers, and even better, it's easy to grow and thrives in a range of growing conditions. This video is about my experience of growing Oxalis Triangularis. It's going to show you how I've got on growing it, and it's going to give you a few tips for how you can keep your Oxalis Triangularis healthy. So I hadn't grown Oxalis Triangularis until earlier this year, but I saw some pictures of it online on Pinterest and Instagram, and I'll be honest, as soon as I saw the pictures, I was blown away. It just looked stunning. I think within about half an hour, I'd ordered bulbs online. It was that quick. It was love at first sight. So I ordered bulbs online, they arrived and I grew them. And this is one of the plants that I grew. I actually grew three pots full of plants, got 9 bulbs in total, and split them between the 3 pots. I've still got 2 of them, and I've given one away to one of my relatives so that they can enjoy them as well. So first of all, I'm going to talk you through what I did with my Oxalis Triangularis bulbs to get them looking really, really well like they do here today. So as I said, they arrived in the post, actually from China. They took a couple of weeks to arrive. Just ordered them off Amazon. When they arrived, there were 9 bulbs. They were actually just starting to sprout. So I planted them fairly quickly as soon as they arrived. I just prepared 3 approximately 6-inch pots with a well-draining peat-based potting mix with a wee bit of extra vermiculite just to improve the drainage. Filled the pot about 3/4 full of the potting mix, put the bulbs in, covered them with about another inch of soil, moistened it all down and let them do their thing. I actually split the pots up. I put one in a southwest facing window and I actually put the other 2 in a northeast facing window because I'd heard that Oxalis Triangularis can tolerate a range of light conditions and other sort of growing conditions. So I wanted to see what difference it would make with how my plants grew. So, well, I'll put up on screen first of all. Here's what the bulb looked like when it arrived, and you can see it's it's actually quite a large bulb for such a small plant. So I just planted 3 in each pot, and away we went. Literally within a week, I had the plants sprouting. You can see from this next picture, and they were ready up maybe an inch or 2. And then a further week on, I was seeing full blown leaves, and the plant was well on the way, to growing up and turning into the lovely plant that it is today. The next picture, I think, is of the plant when it was about maybe 3 weeks old or so. As you can see, it's starting to look like the grown up plant. And actually, within as little as 5 weeks, you can see from this picture that the plant looks stunning. It's literally gone from bulb to a full-blown, beautiful looking Oxalis Triangularis within 5 weeks. Interestingly, there was very little difference between the rate of growth and health of the plants growing in a south-facing window versus a northeast-facing window. They both looked great and did rightly. So yeah, I haven't really had any major issues with my Oxalis Triangularis. They just are very easy to care for. Initially all the leaves came out and they looked beautiful. Then they started throwing up these flower stems and really produce loads of flowers. The flowers are actually a lovely wee addition. I mean, obviously the reason I bought Oxalis Triangularis initially was for the foliage, which I just think is awesome. The triangular leaves are just so cool looking, so delicate looking, and just with the purple colour, and they can actually be slightly variegated, in certain light conditions and certain bulbs. These ones aren't particularly, but I think that adds a little bit more to the look of them. The flowers, they're kind of like wee trumpet-shaped flowers, light pink, purple, sometimes a wee bit pale white colour. The flowers seem to come out every few days. I mean, this plant actually only maybe has, 2-3 plant stalks left, but it maybe had 20 at its peak. And maybe 6-8 flowers per stem. The flowers seem to come out, stay for maybe a week or two, and then they drop. But they just keep producing more and more flowers, and then eventually the stems, once they've finished flowering, I've got one here that's finished flowering, they just wither and droop, and then they can just be pinched off. That's great. In fact, I actually tidied up this plant before this video. There were quite a few spent flower stems on it, so I just cut them off because it can start to look a little bit straggly if you leave them on. I suspect I'll probably get a few more flowers out of this before the end of the season. This is towards the end of July. I planted this in March time, so it's really been flowering probably from the start of May, so May, June, July, almost 3 months. So it's been a really good display of colour. Watering, I'll discuss. Basically, I think you're definitely better not over-watering Oxalis Triangularis. They do have a tendency to root rot. The bulbs can rot as well, so you just need to be careful of that. You just want to water them once the top inch of the soil starts to dry out. I typically just take mine to the sink, run water through it until it's starting to come out the bottom, and then leave it in the sink for maybe 2-3 minutes without any water running, just to let the excess water drain off. And then I've got my plant pot in an external pot, just because it looks nicer. I've actually just got this in a plastic plastic pot that does the job all right. So yeah, watering. If you don't, if you sort of miss watering them, or if you're a bit forgetful on the watering, I wouldn't worry too much. They will droop. They will tell you that they need water. It'll be very, very obvious, and once you water them, they perk back up really nicely. So it's been a couple of times I've been a bit slow on watering this one, and it's drooped a bit, and it's always recovered great. Light. I think bright indirect light is definitely best. Pretty bright, but not direct. Direct sunlight, they don't love that. You can sort of burn the leaves and things like that. So the one that I had initially growing in a south-facing window, I moved it maybe about 3-4 feet away from the window once it got up. So it was still getting plenty of bright summer light, but it wasn't getting direct sunlight. I've had the other one, I just kept the other one in the northeast facing window, so it was getting a wee bit of early morning direct sunlight, but the rest of the day it was just getting sort of reasonably bright indirect light, and they've both done very, very well. If you don't give it sufficient light, it probably not produce as many blooms. It will get a bit leggy, and it'll just be a little bit less bushy. It's not a particularly bushy plant anyway, so I wouldn't want this to be any more leggy and spread out than it currently is. So I think definitely the brighter light, the better. I think one quite interesting thing about the light with Oxalis Triangularis is whenever you go online and you look for pictures of Oxalis Triangularis, you'll see these awesome pictures, which actually I have on my website as well, because the temptation is to take the best picture that you can of this plant, but whenever it's facing a bright light source, all the leaves will point towards the light, so that then when you turn it, you'll just get this amazing display of these lovely triangular leaves pointing at you, and it just looks wonderful. So typically if anyone's coming around to my house, I'll spin the pot round so that all the leaves are pointing outwards, and it looks amazing. I haven't done that for this video because I didn't think it was fair. Whenever the plant is just allowed to grow normally, in reasonable light conditions, the leaves will just fan out around the pot. So that's that. Temperature, I think standard indoor temperatures are just about perfect for this plant. 60 Fahrenheit to 75 Fahrenheit, that's about 16 to 24 degrees Celsius is perfect. So that works out nicely. You can grow them outside during the summer, but if it's getting cool, in the early spring or late autumn, you need to bring them in. Some people, do grow them outside, and then they lift the bulbs in the autumn time, bring them in over the winter, and keep them warm and dryish over the autumn until they sprout again in the springtime. And actually, sorry, that brings up another point. Oxalis Triangularis, it's an annual plant, so it will, is it an annual plant? Don't know. Anyway, it is bulb based. It will grow very nicely during the spring, summer, and autumn, and then it will die back to a certain extent over the winter. It may not lose all its leaves, but certainly it'll largely stop growing. Sometimes it will just, depending on the growing conditions, depending on whether you're keeping it warm and in plenty of light, it may just go into dormancy, into its bulb, and just sit there all winter. So if you do have one of these plants and you notice the leaves all fall off and the plant appears to die in the autumn time, it hasn't died. It's just gone dormant. So hang on to it. Don't water it too much over the winter, and it should come again in the springtime. Humidity, again, pretty average humidity required for this. So 40 to 60 is fine. If you go very high humidity, it can be prone to mold and to sort of fungal diseases. Low humidity, it tends to tolerate, I think, fairly well. So don't be too worried about humidity. Fertilizer, every sort of 2 to 3 weeks is about what's recommended. I have just used a very dilute, balanced fertilizer on this around about every fortnight, maybe every 3 weeks. I use one called Jack's Classic, which I think is pretty good. It's water soluble. I always make it up to half strength, and then just water the plant thoroughly with this, instead of using plain water. I always use a half strength fertilizer because houseplants, they do tend to grow more slowly than plants kept out in the garden with abundant light and water. So if you err on the side of caution with your fertilizer, you're less likely to run into issues with nutrient burn and problems caused by excess nutrients. So little goes a long way. Pruning, well, I've sort of mentioned that already. I just prune off the spent blooms. I don't do anything with the leaves. They just, sometimes some of the old leaves will die naturally and just pinch them off, and it will continue to produce new leaves through the growing season. Other than that, there's no pruning required. Overall, Oxalis Triangularis, fantastic houseplant. I love it. I love the way it looks. I've had so many people comment on it when they've been around my house, saying, "My goodness, that's stunning." It's not a houseplant that I don't think up until reasonably recently a lot of people kept. It's not particularly well known, so most people who see it, are a bit intrigued by the unique look of it. I've liked the fact that it's been easy to care for. I enjoy the fact that it changes every day. The leaves move to the light. The leaves close up at night time and open during the day, which is lovely. So it's never the same any 2 times you look at it. The only thing that is worth knowing about Oxalis Triangularis is it does drop its spent blooms throughout the growing season. It produces a lot of flowers over a period of months, and almost every day you'll get some of the spent blooms dropping around the plant. So it's a constant cleanup operation to to pick these up, otherwise it gets very untidy around the plant. So that's the only thing that's been slightly irritating with this plant, but otherwise I think I'm sold on them. I've got one here, I've got one behind me there, which actually has more flower stalks on it. I've promised to give one away to another family member, so that'll just leave me with one. But I think I may well get more for the next growing season and give them another go. If you've any questions about Oxalis Triangularis, feel free to put a wee comment in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Otherwise, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel, and you can ring the bell for notifications of future videos. I'm bringing out content on a weekly basis about houseplants and indoor gardening that hopefully you'll find useful. Thanks so much for watching. All the best. Till next time. Bye.